What's up, guys, and welcome back to Paint Bravely, the podcast where you can find a little bit of encouragement, discover new ways to make your hobby more fun, and most importantly, learn to paint bravely. Now, today we're going to get into some of the stuff we've been doing, just kind of warm up, catch up a little bit, and then we've got some interesting things to talk about. There have been some happenings lately, and we're going to try not to railroad the podcast with that particular conversation as much as it is a conversation. And then we'll get into some fun stuff like conversions, hopefully.
That's right.
So, what have you been doing since the last time we talked, Brent?
Okay, so today I was rearranging my paint, and ordinarily I keep it organized by brand, brand and line. But today I'm trying something new. I'm trying to organize by whether or not I will ever actually use it, and keeping that on my desk.
I like that.
Yeah, so I've got one of those like MDF kits, the risers that have the little holes to put the paint bottles in.
Right, yeah.
And I don't know, there's like 40 or 50 slots for paint. And if you go through your collection and you figure out which paint you'll actually use, that's plenty.
Generally, yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, you really don't need that many.
Yeah, every once in a while you'll need to go back to the rack and find your like weird teals and teal highlights and your aquas, but 40 paints, yeah, that should be enough.
Right.
So what I had been in the habit of using is those Vallejo 16 paint kits.
Oh, sure.
You get like Vallejo color and they have the starter set with 16 paints in there. And 8 of them I use a lot, and 8 of them I never use. And so instead of keeping that at my desk, just, real quick, pick the ones you want, throw the others in a deep, deep drawer, and call it good. So, and then, so I've got my dream team lined up now right there on my painting desk. And I even went through and put a little dot of paint on the top of each cap, just to really streamline things. So, the future is looking bright. What's new with you, Casey? What's going on?
A couple things, I guess. I got some very large toolboxes for my hobby space, and now I'm currently filming in this hobby space for this podcast. This is the first time I'm doing that. Brent, you can't actually see the stuff behind me, really. Everybody else on camera can if you are watching this on YouTube. But yeah, I got some big giant toolboxes like that can hold 1,000 pounds of tools. And, I put like 5 pounds of hobby materials in them each. So definitely utilizing that space. But they're awesome. They stand up pretty high. They're on wheels so I can move them around and even make like a game table if I want to. Because they're 46 inches long. So not quite, 6x4. But, definitely a good size space for some skirmish games and things like that if I put them back to back. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. It's kind of finishing out my hobby space finally. And I'm almost ready to do a video on that and kind of show it off. I'm super excited. And it's like a little bit of touches here and there to finish it off, but it's nice.
Yeah, I saw your most recent video there, and those Craftsman drawers or whatever are looking real nice. And yeah, it's funny to just put a few paints in each drawer, but you'll fill them up. I know you will. It's really nice to have that space. I hadn't thought about being able to wheel them around and make a gaming surface out of them, but that's good too, eh?
Yeah, I mean, it's partially the reason that I bought them because, I had the pool table before, right? Sold the pool table. We're just going to rehash that, right?
That was a bad episode. I am sorry that this podcast started with that.
Yeah, that was the first conversation was I'm trying to sell a pool table and then continuing the adventure of that.
I'm done apologizing for my cats, but I'm going to keep apologizing for you, Casey, every time you bring up that pool table. I am sorry, Casey, to keep bringing this up.
It is gone.
But look, the Craftsman
shelves, I got a hobby space now. Yeah. So it was worth it.
Level 5 hobby space easy. I'm happy for you. A little bit jealous, but also happy. Like, it looks good.
Jealous? What are you talking about?
Oh, I always like to change things up in my hobby space, and you've got a nice setup there. It gets me thinking, that's all. But
I mean, these things didn't they don't weigh that much, like realistically. You know, you put it on like a dolly or something, you could haul it up some stairs.
Oh, the Craftsman tool cases. Yeah, they could.
Yeah.
Get some straps, a pulley system, maybe some friends. Yeah, it could be done. It could be
Yeah.
done. Yeah.
Yeah, outside like a piano through the window. You know, if you dropped it, it probably wouldn't break like a piano. So there are lots of options for your hobby space. You could even wheel it in down in your basement and have a sweet airbrush setup that's, movable. You can move it around, get some fancy shots here and there.
Oh, that sounds
Yeah.
real good. Yeah, you've been taking fancy shots, and I'm really enjoying your new videos over there on eBay Miniature Rescues for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really trying to bring in that, like, I don't want to say visual storytelling, even though I'm pretty sure I use that terminology in the latest video. Um, but it's like I'm trying to force myself to use the space that I have because I didn't have a space before. So it makes more sense and it makes me feel better for having, I don't know, put my wife through this and, built an entire room and wall and extra thing in my house so that I could just paint miniatures. So trying to utilize that and do the best I possibly can with the camera that I have,
Yeah.
feels like it's justified a little bit more.
Well, I'm excited. I think viewers of Paint Bravely, the podcast YouTube channel, are gonna have the opportunity to see our heads a little farther back from the cameras.
Yes.
So I'm going out on a limb here. I assume that your head is not currently taking up all of your frame because you're in a bigger room now.
I mean, it shouldn't be. The camera
Okay,
is
okay.
pretty far away from me right now. Instead of like a foot and a half from my head.
Right.
Because
Right,
that's all over my
because you
head.
used to record in a closet, Casey, and
Yes.
you couldn't get the camera very far away from your head, and so when we
Yeah.
edited down these podcast videos, my camera has always been at a reasonable
Yeah.
distance from my head,
It
but
is
to
far
make
away.
me match with you, the editing
Mhm.
has always zoomed in like 3 times on my head, and so we both have giant heads
Yeah.
on the YouTube channel there.
Pretty
Which,
much.
maybe
It's
if
been
you're
cropped
watching on
in.
your phone, it's all right. But if you're watching on a PC or your laptop, it's a bit much.
Yeah, I
So
like to watch videos on my TV, sitting on the couch, and yeah, it's our heads are pretty big on my 65-inch TV. So hopefully that will be remedied. You'll have to let us know down in the comments if you like this better. I mean,
yeah,
I have to imagine that
and
it's
and
just
then
more
episode
enjoyable to
15 and
watch.
16 are just gonna get better and better. I know it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm really happy
Yeah.
with your new space and looking forward to see what you do with it there, Casey.
Yeah, I'm excited. It's pretty
Yeah, yeah,
rad.
yeah, yeah. So let's see. Much smaller things are new with me. I got some Dwarven Forge terrain for the first time in the mail.
All right.
So this is much more of a big deal in like the D&D community,
Mm-hmm.
Tabletop role playing. This I don't know if you've heard of Dwarvenaut, the
Mm-hmm.
documentary
The movie?
Yeah, yeah.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, so it's a documentary that used to be on Netflix and now you have to pay actual money for it. But I watched it while it was on Netflix a few years back, and it's essentially a documentary about a Kickstarter campaign for a company that makes terrain for D&D. And it's, cool little story, and it's a company that's been around for a long time and is
Mm-hmm.
pretty well known in those circles. And I think
Yeah, I
it's
mean the guy was like friends with a bunch of people who were like in on the development, right? With D&D, or he played D&D with them a bunch. I don't know, something crazy like that.
I
Like he knew
think
people.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually hadn't touched this stuff before. I think it's gone through a couple different materials, but now they're on to like a PVC blend that's quite durable.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was interested just to get it for the first time to, you know, see how durable it was. And that's something that is important for minis, but I think it's much more important for terrain because terrain's going to
Yeah.
get a little more hard use out of it. And hey, this stuff seemed pretty good. So I am now in contact with the Dwarven Forge, and maybe I'll be painting some of that stuff up on the channel someday. I just got to decide what scene, Do Underdark, do a
Ooh.
castle, do the
Yeah,
Wildlands.
something epic. I mean, you got to fill like a table because
Hmm.
that stuff. It's like it's pretty nice for small scenes, but because it's so modular, at least the stuff that I've personally gotten, it feels like you have to really stack up a whole table to really get that full effect. To see everything put together like like a huge Lego set almost.
Right.
Yeah. So you got to go that route
Yeah,
for
it's set
sure.
up as like squares, a couple inches on each side, or a lot of the stuff is in my understanding. I don't know. It's a
Hmm.
deep, deep rabbit hole to get into, I think.
Yeah. Well, they've been around for a while, like you said,
Yeah.
and I know they put out a lot of sets, and they're like full cities and dungeons and massive terrain pieces, like entire 6x4 tables worth of modular terrain. And they've been doing Kickstarters for years.
Right. Yeah, and they sell both pre-painted stuff and unpainted stuff, and I'd be interested in doing the painting myself, but even after that, it's just nice to have a little bit more terrain around here for taking pictures and minis and stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, just really adds a lot to be able to put them in a scene and stuff. So actually, one of the things I've been painting for myself here recently is uh, a terrain, it's a tavern set from Titan
Oh
Forge.
yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
And so, got the bartender and a couple of barflies sitting down at a table having a drink. And it's been the first time that I've ever painted food. So there's like
Hmm.
a little table at the tavern, and you got your loaf of bread and your steak and your ham and your beer. And it's a nice change of pace just to paint, some food. Some guys having a drink and some bar food, and you get to thinking about interesting things like what color is bread. Well, a couple of different colors bread can be, but
Yeah, it depends on the
we're
bread, right?
there's some colors and some things that we're really used to painting, and I'm thinking about it. I've painted so many swords and spears and stuff like that, but I've never painted a loaf of bread. I've painted maybe one mug of ale before. I've never
Right.
painted a steak, a little ribeye.
Right.
Is it well done? Is it pink in the center? I've got to make these decisions now. But
That is interesting. Yeah, I can't say that I've ever painted food.
right?
Yeah, like in art class, that's probably the closest I've gotten. And that's, still life food paintings. Teacher brings
Right.
a sack of bananas and some oranges and throws them on the table. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Paint that.
Yeah, the characters in our games and in our settings, they probably don't fight every day, but they probably
Yeah.
eat every day. Like we should be able to paint a loaf of bread and an apple.
They
Yeah.
seem like good things to know how to paint, for
Yeah,
sure.
it's a nice change of pace either way. And then once I get all that done, I'll have my tavern setting and be able to take interesting pictures of having my adventurers wander into a tavern before they go back out to fight again, or whatever. So
Yeah. Yeah. That'll be nice.
yeah, that's me taking a little bit of a break from my heroes and stuff, and doing just some terrain, a little tavern, building up that collection. Oh, I guess I have on my list here. There's the opportunity for a new life goal. So
Right, yes.
of the connections that Dwarven Forge has, the actor Joe Manganiello is
There you
apparently
go. Nailed it.
Did I? Okay, good.
You got it, yeah.
For those listening at home, Joe Casey phonetically wrote in Joe Manganiello in our notes here, and as long as Casey's not wrong, and I don't know if he is or not, we just nailed it.
I'm pretty sure I'm right on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure. 99%.
Right. So anyway,
Now I'm questioning
this is
myself.
a pretty well known actor who has been in True Blood. I think he was a werewolf or something. He's been in Magic Mike and Magic Mike 2.
Hmm.
He's been in lots of stuff.
My personal favorite was his awesome appearance in the new Pee Wee Herman movie on Netflix. It's fantastic.
Well, I'll put it on my list.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's always fun to learn about a celebrity that's into our nerd stuff. And, old Henry Cavill made waves when he painted one head of what was it?
um,
What's the word for the golden boys?
Custodes.
There you go.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. And Guy from Midwinter Minis is going to try to get Henry, but
yeah.
Maybe.
Do you think it's possible?
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. And he asked very nicely, and he's got a shot at it.
I think he's got a shot at it. I mean, if they literally live in the same, 50-mile square radius, right? There's a shot.
Yeah.
Got a shot.
So, Henry, we have that one picture of him painting a Custodes head. But for Joe, you turn on the Dwarven Forge stream on Twitch, and there's just Joe Manganiello sitting there talking about his Dwarven Forge collection. And this guy's really in it, spends a lot of time thinking about this stuff. Guy should have asked Joe. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, yeah, because he is definitely in it. And I think he's more of a face for it.
Yeah.
He's been out there and he's been doing things. I want to say he was on Will Wheaton's tabletop at one point too.
Right.
He's been around.
Right. And,
right?
Will... I'm just thinking of what other celebrities are out there and which of them are most approachable but also into games. Which are the likely prospects? Will Wheaton is on that list of this is what he does is just dabble in all the nerd stuff, right?
Does that make it, do you think, easier to get him, because you're talking about a chance to maybe do some kind of a collaboration or meet with or something along those lines, that kind of thing? Or is this how many degrees away are we
maybe
from
someday
Kevin
we
Bacon?
meet at a convention,
Okay, sure.
And maybe Joe's seen me paint Dwarven Forge. You know what I'm talking about.
I would actually give that a pretty fair chance.
See, that's what I'm thinking. You gotta be able to adjust your expectations, shoot for attainable goals. But so I'll set my goal at if conventions exist again in the future, someday me and Joe are at the same connection and we both recognize each other. What a dream. What a dream.
Yeah. Big high fives.
Oh, high five. That's right.
Absolutely. Or something else. COVID friendly. Conventions will be
Who knows what the future holds.
Right. Who knows what we'll be doing in 2023.
Yeah. Yeah, for a while it was Vin Diesel was the one who was known as the D&D celebrity.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's still true or not, but he went on a few talk shows and talked a little bit about his level 14 something or other.
Well, I thought he wrote the preface for some D&D book that came out, the New Player's Handbook or something.
Oh.
So, yeah, I think he's still in it.
Well,
of course, that could have been Joe Manganiello, and I'm just totally mixing them up. I could be totally wrong. I don't know. They're both in it pretty hard, it seems. Yeah, I mean, those are all the one, Henry Cavill's kind of, outskirts. Maybe he painted one Custodes head. We don't know the story.
Right. We're not sure.
Yeah, Manganiello and Vin Diesel and Will Wheaton are definitely people who have been in it, who've been talking about it for a while. I mean, Vin Diesel just did that super sci-fi comic book movie that didn't do very well. He's been doing that stuff for a while. It's if he's not doing, bro action movies, he's I'm doing hardcore fantasy stuff. The Last Witch Hunter that did terribly, but was actually could have been worse.
What if I just spend the next 6 months painting versions of Riddick?
There you go.
There you go. Like I get really good at painting lenses, and so I get his goggles done
Yeah,
up real
yeah.
nice, and have him on a dark planet, have him on a bright planet.
Right.
Maybe like a diorama where he's shaving his head with a piece of scrapnel.
Yeah. Just a piece of busted like orc truck.
Hanging
Yeah.
off of a spaceship, all chained up, making threats against like 5 other people in the room.
Yeah.
I just go hard out on like the Riddick approach. Maybe,
I mean, you could do a lot with that.
yeah.
For sure. You could like disguise it though. Like for a while it could just be goblins with goggles, and then you
Uh-huh.
move it up to orcs,
Like
and then you
work up to
start
it.
getting into humans, and maybe because some of those Necromunda guys, with like the face masks, and I'm sure some of them have goggles. Like you could do some fancy stuff and really just, and then be like, this was Riddick the whole time, and then show them back to back as this evolution. Yes.
What was the name of the bad guys in the second Riddick movie? Necromongers or something? It wasn't. It was pretty close to Necromunda.
I
Necromon.
mean, it's been so long since I've seen that movie. I don't even remember. Like, I remember one of the bad
It's
guys was
not important.
somebody, like, I don't know, it was like Carl Urban or something. It was somebody from like a Lord of the Rings movie.
Yep,
And I
Carl Urban.
kind of remember that. And then like Dame Judi Dench was in there somewhere.
Yep, she was in there. Yep, she was
Yeah,
an air elemental. Yeah.
that's what I got. That's what I got left. Don't remember anything else.
Yeah, it's always interesting, what percentage of our brains filled up with third edition Warhammer 40K or
Right.
Chronicles of Riddick.
Yeah.
It's good to take inventory of what's still rattling around it up there sometimes.
I mean, for some reason, it's actors who've been in things who've been in other things that I like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's as far as it stretches usually. Like if it's not a movie that I've watched repeatedly, yeah, IMDb every movie. You can just fun fact, you can IMDb me. I'm on IMDb.
Are you really?
Yeah, as a
What did you
composer
do?
and a cinematographer.
Oh,
I've done some
congratulations.
like indie movies and small BS things, for
Uh-huh.
fun.
Uh-huh.
But technically, I'm on IMDb.
That's incredible.
I don't know if that means anything.
Hey, that's better than me. I've been in one movie. I was an extra in Space Cop, from Red Letter Media.
Oh
It was
boy.
not a very good movie, but I was in a project that the YouTube channel Red Letter Media did, so I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not bad.
If you look real close at the final scene of Space Cop, the penultimate scene of Space Cop, when
Yeah.
Space Cop has saved the day and he's getting the key to the city, and they're saying, hey, and I am saying, thank you, Space Cop. The community,
Really?
the crowd is yelling, thank you, Space Cop. And
I'm
I
gonna
was
I'm gonna
there.
have to go find this and then exploit that somehow and put that on the I
Yeah.
don't know
Well, they did.
forward-facing internets.
They did a call out for extras, and my folks happened to be in town on that day, and so I'm the only
Oh,
person
okay.
that brought their parents with them to the casting call for extras. So it was just
Right.
a bunch of 30-year-old nerds who went to be in the Red Letter Media movie, and then like
Yeah.
this one nerd also brought their parents along, so it was pretty good.
That's not bad. I mean, hey,
Yeah.
like you got in a legit production. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So you
Real
could be on
legit.
IMDb
I
as
don't think
extra
so.
number 68. Yeah. You
I'm
never
gonna look
looked
into
though,
this.
have you? Yeah.
No, I guess I
You should
haven't.
check it out. You never know.
All right, are we warmed up, Casey?
I feel warmed up.
All right. All right. Well, let's get into it. We'll
Yes.
get to an actual hobby topic soon, but we got to do a drama topic here.
Yeah, because it seems like, I don't know, every 3 or 4 episodes, that just seems to be our thing. So, in keeping with tradition on Paint Bravely, we're going to talk about some AK Interactive. So, the other day, was this 2 days ago as we're recording this? Was it literally yesterday? I don't know.
It was the 1st of September.
Okay. So AK Interactive is coming out with a new hobby book. And they decided to do some like video premieres on YouTube for this hobby book. And they were like teaser trailers for what they were going to release later this month. Now they released the first one, and it made a lot of people pretty upset.
Why was that, Casey?
Well, unfortunately, they thought it would be a good idea to take footage from like internment camps and death camps in World War II and use that footage to show how dark and grim their new book was.
Have you ever seen footage of the Holocaust in a commercial before, Casey?
In a legitimate commercial for, no, nobody in their right mind
Right.
would do that.
Right. Okay, so there's some real dark stuff in this topic. I want to do a preface here that obviously this is very dark stuff. And then the caveat to that is when a company screws up this badly, it can be kind of funny at the same time. Like the putting Holocaust footage in a commercial is deadly serious and offensive and terrible. And it's not one of those things where like I feel like I should be offended by this. It's like I watched the footage and my guts churned and I was
it's a gut feeling, right?
Yeah. This wasn't like I know that commercializing dead bodies is wrong. It was I watched this and like visceral feel, this is terrible.
And it's not like they're just showing you old, black and white footage of some stuff that could have been the thing. It's like, no, this is the kind of stuff that when you were in school, they sat you down with Holocaust survivors and they're like, we're going to tell you a story. And it's serious, and everybody is basically in shock because you can't understand why these things have occurred. And we all know that this stuff happened, but then to use actual footage from those things to place that in, and that they're real. We were actually watching in those ads was real footage.
Right. Yeah.
It feels bad on the inside.
Yeah, real footage, human corpses, holes, bulldozers, ovens, like the real stuff. And it turned out they were selling an art book and that it was supposed to be a serious art book that dealt with serious topics. And the idea is, you can make models and paint models of serious things to tell a story, to evoke emotions, to
as an art piece.
Yeah, as a serious piece of art. But the way they did it, the way they put those commercials together makes it so clear that they are not the people to be, taking a run at this content.
Right.
So
I understand that their products are used for a lot of that stuff because what they make is very good, and it replicates, the grim dark, right, as like very well. So I can see how they might think that, like I can get the rabbit hole that they went down, and then somehow lost their way and fell 50,000 feet further. I don't know where that went wrong,
I think
but
you're
I can
onto
see where they
something
were
there,
going.
Casey. But so for the people who aren't sure of what we're talking about, like just backing up here a second, the idea was that they were going to announce a book on September 3rd. And so the plan was 30-second teaser trailer September 1st, 30-second teaser trailer September 2nd, 2-minute trailer for the product that actually revealed what the product was on September 3rd. And so what they did is they rolled out a Facebook post, which was horrible in its own way, and a 30-second teaser trailer on September 1st. And it was a teaser trailer that had the AK Interactive logo, which is very much like a gamer logo. It's a skull with an AK-47 superimposed on it, and like the flashing, logo screen is very much like a extreme gamer kind of logo. And then it cuts to horrific footage, and there's some text on the screen, but the important text is coming September 3rd, like
Right.
check back.
Yeah, come back tomorrow.
And the comments on that video were people were fairly unified in never having seen footage from a genocide used to market any kind of product.
Yeah.
There were some people like, okay, I mean, let's see what it is on September 3rd. Maybe this will all make sense. There weren't a lot of those.
No,
in the
weren't.
comments there was.
I think it's just people trying to be as hopeful as possible and like, oh, please don't let this be like
devil's
something. Oh, it is
advocate.
a thing. Yeah.
Never say never. There's often an explanation for things.
Yeah.
Give the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, it was not okay. And
Yeah.
a couple hours after the release of that first trailer, after a lot of appropriately negative feedback, they were like, okay, we need to release the next couple of videos early.
Yeah.
So there was actually an employee of the company in the Facebook thread saying like, no, it'll all make sense in context. Wait until you see what the product is. And then they said something like Schindler's List dealt with serious topics, and this is kind of like that. Which, go watch the trailer for Schindler's List. There's a way to deal with serious topics.
That tells you what it is, and asking you to come and sit down for a minute and learn something, but in this format that we have now made that is Oscar worthy, right? Not a 15-second, let's just show you genocide videos and hope you buy our book.
Yeah, and at this point, it was not clear what the product was for. It was just
terrible
footage.
Said, come back tomorrow.
Terrible footage, inappropriate font, come back in a couple of days. And so there was an employee in the Facebook thread, and I think it was on their private account, but very clearly an employee of the company all the same, saying, give it a chance. This will make sense in context. And they weren't winning that argument, but the company did on that same first day release the second trailer. And the second trailer, again, 30-second trailer, this time Rwandan genocide, which
and
gamer logo, inappropriate font, spooky music, and images of the Rwandan genocide. And the context, okay, it's that doesn't make it better.
No, and to be a little more clear, because obviously this is audio format, even if you're watching the YouTube, we're not certainly going to be putting that up for you to see. Nope. But we're talking about people legitimately getting shot and killed, like actual human beings in this video. So it's not like we're just saying, oh, war video is terrible. Like, we're talking about, I didn't want to wake up this morning and watch somebody get thrown into a ditch legitimately. Yeah. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Eventually all of these videos were taken down. And so a lot of people have kind of heard about this controversy, but have not seen the videos. I did actually record the videos for reference, because I was well aware that they would not be online very long. But I'm certainly not going to re-upload them, because that does not belong anywhere on the internet. And we're talking about how much it does not belong on the internet. So yeah, they released the second teaser trailer, and this is the one that was supposed to come out on September 2nd. They released it on September 1st as damage control, kind of doubling down, no, it'll all make sense. we're
context,
showing
context, and
all
it's
kinds
like
of
no.
genocides, not just dead Jewish people. Like it's like no, no,
Yeah,
no, this isn't making it better. Like and then kind of an hour after that, they deleted both of the 30-second trailers and released their full 2-minute trailer, which is the one that actually said, okay, this is an art book. Um, so it was so that was
yeah,
2 minutes of basically the same type of footage, more of the same type of footage, uh, different images, but equally awful and
yeah,
disturbing. And then they started to show this art book, which again you can use dioramas and miniature painting and sculpture to deal with real issues, but you can't do it while using Monster Energy drink font. Uh,
right.
in my
To
not
be hyped
not to
about
tell you
it,
what kind of
you
art to
know.
like, but um, the they showed a couple of sample images from this book, which is still currently for sale. Their ad campaign is now completely offline, but
Yeah,
the book, as of this recording, is still for sale. And in the images from the book, you can see what appears to be a tutorial for making a model gas chamber,
hmm.
which, oh, that's not something I would ever tackle. But I mean,
I
it
mean,
like in a museum,
yeah.
like there exists a context where that, maybe, okay?
Well, there are dioramas, and a lot of people have thrown that out there. Um, like what the one that comes to mind, I think it's called Hell something or other. It's in a museum, and it is, these kinds of camps and showing things like this, but it's in a museum. It's showing you history in a different way, you know.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, there are lots of dioramas in museums all over the world
yeah,
because that's what people could do to
yeah,
get this across and to show what this is like. Schindler's List is an art piece as much as it's just a movie,
right.
right? Like you are showing something and telling a story so that people understand what it is that they're looking at, not glorifying and profiting off of it because of the content. Like
Yeah,
no average person in the modeling world is going to go pick up that book and be like, "Oh man, this looks so badass.
yeah,
I'm building this gas chamber." Like this is a problem with a lot of marketing in general from people who think that it's like, "Well, I'm just not going to bother. Like we know our audience, right?" And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of people in this hobby that like metal music and, we like painting demons. But it's like that doesn't mean that you now advertise gas chambers in the same way that I want to build a great unclean one, you know?
yeah. It's I mean there's a lot to unpack here, and there's a lot of fine lines and in the right context and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but there are some fine lines that have been crossed by such a wide margin that the I mean the advertising campaign was so far out of bounds, it's ridiculous. And then just looking at that page, like, okay, tutorial for how to build your own gas chamber, and in the written descriptions they have, this is the AK Interactive paint that you need to be used, or this is the color of AK Interactive with its product label that to use to paint the gas manifold. Um, but to me, the really clear indication that these people did not have the awareness or the maturity to be dealing with topics like this was, I mean, as simple as it is, the font on that page.
Font choice is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, that's tone of voice says a lot, and
Right.
font says a lot. And the font that they used for headings on that page was, I mean, it seriously looks like the font from Monster Energy drink. And
Yeah.
and again, like this, I apologize for putting any humor at all in this. It's also, I think, the font that both Miniac and Blackmagic Craft use for their, like,
Really?
metal logos.
Yeah, yeah.
And sorry, Scott, sorry, Jeremy. Like, I know you're not happy with this either, um but yeah,
It's one of those fonts though.
it's that font has its uses, and nowhere on that list of potential uses are dealing with, you know,
Yeah.
genocide. Um, if I don't know. So the product itself seems to be problematic. The advertising was obviously ill-conceived. I mean, just I mean, it blows my mind trying to think of how wrong it is. Just the question of, is it a good idea to use images from the Holocaust in a commercial? Or
There might
piles of
actually
dead
just be
bodies
straight up
from
laws
any.
about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, it is so far out of bounds. Ridiculous. But anyway,
Yeah.
and um and then we get into just kind of how they handled it. So their initial response was to double down. There was the
Right.
blowback against the first teaser trailer. So their initial response was real quick, let's get the second teaser and the full trailer out 2 days early, just so people see what it's an art book. You're like, there's no big deal here. And that didn't really help the situation. There were like a couple of
No,
people
it
in the
definitely
comment
made it
section
worse.
who were like, okay, it's an art book. All right, they see what they're trying to do here. But for the most part, such a lack of awareness of why this is not cool means that they're
Yeah.
probably not the people to be putting out a culturally important piece of work like this. Or, I mean,
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's not that they couldn't have. It's just that there is a certain way to do that, and fonts, color choice, layout, like just design in general plays a big factor into that. It's like you watch, I don't know, any war movie in the last 20, 30 years, and it's like, black screen, little tiny thin white writing of like, this horrific thing happened, and we're going to show you that so that you understand. It's not meant to be like, blah, look at this gas chamber.
yeah.
What?
And then the tagline, "Are you ready?" Image
Yeah.
picture of ovens, September 3rd. Are you ready? Oh, what? Like,
Yeah.
and the other thing, another detail I picked up on, the preview page with the how to build your own gas chamber had barbed wire. I don't know what you want to call it, but kind of like borders for in between images and in
Oh
between
yeah.
text. There's just barbed wire running across the page, and it seemed like that was the same image that was used in the trailer videos.
Yeah, they had it separating video
Right,
elements and stuff kind of like
right.
floating around. Yeah.
And I barbed wire is fine, but the kind of that connective feature tells me that the same people who put the trailers together put the book together.
Oh, for
And
sure.
the
This is
people.
a campaign that was put together over months,
Right.
maybe even the last year and a half. Like they thought this through and they got in so deep and in their own heads that they literally did not see what was in front of them and how that would come across. They thought what they had was good, you know?
Yeah. Um, yeah, 3 separate videos connected stylistically to the product that they're selling. And again, you think about it, we both make videos. They had to go out searching for that, historical footage or stock footage or whatever you want to call it. They had to go
I don't
looking
even
for
know where you
that
get it.
footage, find a source for it, download it, put it onto a video timeline, chop it up, do some transitions, they throw some
Yeah.
background sound on top of it.
Yeah, nowhere during that point in time when you're looking for the proper sound effect for when a body is shot or falls into a hole, did anyone stop and think maybe we're taking this too far?
And I mean, looking for lessons here, we've all had jobs where, someone did something maybe not cool. Somebody's working on a project that you have questions about. Let this serve as a reminder.
Yeah.
You may have the ability to stop a mistake from being made, and there are times when
Yeah.
you should speak out.
Well, and for
Yeah,
all we know, there were people that did, and
right,
some of the other people were just like, no, this is what we're going with. I mean, we don't know the full story. I don't
right.
think we'll
We
ever
don't, and
technically know.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so we do want to put that possibility that I assume that there were people working at AK Interactive who thought this was a bad idea, and those
I would
people,
think so.
yeah, probably should have spoken
Yeah.
out a little bit louder.
Yeah.
But maybe they did their best. I don't know.
Well, and I suppose to play a little bit of devil's advocate, I don't think anybody at this company thinks that any of this stuff is like, I don't think that they condone what happened. I don't think that they're
No,
in
no, no.
support of this or they're trying to necessarily glorify it. I think they made a multitude of very bad decisions, and more specifically design decisions, and how they represented this, where, traditionally it is on a completely different plane, like design wise, how it looks, how it's supposed to come across when people are talking about it, in a serious manner. And I think that they just got in over their heads and just went with it,
Yeah,
regardless of what anybody in their own company or otherwise told them.
yeah. I mean, we didn't mention this. The name of the book is Condemnation. In the text, the marketing text, they're saying that it's showing human atrocities to learn from them to make the world a better place.
Right.
To human rights. It is clear that their intention was to make a culturally
Yeah.
important art book for all the right reasons.
And they could have
Um,
done that.
but like you said, Casey, it seems like they probably got in their own head,
Yeah.
did some brainstorming, came up with some ideas that they didn't question closely enough,
Right.
and they ended up making commercials with footage from the Holocaust in them. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, obviously a big mistake. And then it just got into the kind of dance of a corporation that's made a mistake, and then what do they do to
Right.
address
Yeah.
the mistake? So, and this is where I'm going to allow myself to get like a little bit of humor in there when I I find amusement when a corporation makes a mistake. Putting footage of the Holocaust in a commercial is
That's
that is a
probably as
terrible
bad as it
thing, but it
gets.
is also such a bad mistake to make that
Yeah.
wow. And that so double down on it by releasing their whole ad campaign early in the hope that context will fix it. It did not.
No,
Um,
no, it did not.
so they deleted their ad campaign and went to apology mode. So day one was their
Mhm.
ad campaign and deleting their ad campaign. Day two was apology on Facebook, and then that was
Yeah.
the kind of the best place for people to leave comments about the whole situation, so that that post on Facebook filled up real fast with people's thoughts. Um,
Well, and only because the apology that they made the first time, which got deleted, wasn't a very heartfelt attempt at an apology. They were just like, "We're sorry you were offended."
yeah, there's tropes in
Uh,
the commercial apology, non-apology
Sure.
of we're sorry if anyone was offended. We didn't mean to offend you. If you were offended, we're sorry.
Right.
Which and it wasn't exactly that, but it had a lot of that language in there.
Yeah.
And it was also a fairly lengthy apology because it included this is what we were trying to do, and kind of like just
Right.
which can be read
Justification
as like
and
trying to justify what they did.
yeah.
Um So day 2 was posting an apology and then backlash to the apology and deleting the apology.
Yeah.
So day 3 was they now no longer, they're still selling the book. The book is still in pre-order or whatever in the store. There's no ad campaign online. There's no apology online. And I'll tell you on day 3, then they also started posting back their normal pictures of like painted tanks on their social media. So
Yeah.
and so I'll tell you, I was starting to write a script on that day, in case I needed to, be the avatar of the Streisand effect of like this. No, this isn't going away that quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're posting well painted, presumably World War II tanks on their media pages, and cool
Yeah.
tank, but then they're deleting all of the comments left under the picture of the tank,
Right.
and then
Because people are obviously still talking about it. Yeah, they're doing
yes,
whatever they could to kind of sweep it under the rug. And I don't know. I honestly, I don't even know what they could do.
well, I had kind of assumed that they had deleted their first apology while someone researched how to write an appropriate apology. And I mean,
Yeah.
you Google how to write an apology or what are the elements of an apology, and you get a lot of results. And, some of them say like 3 phases of an apology or 6 phases, but, it's all first you have to really understand why and how what you did was wrong. And then like show that you really understand that it is not okay to use footage from an actual human who has died in a terrible way, has had their corpse mutilated, why it is wrong to use that footage to sell a product. Like
Right.
part of an apology is demonstrating that you understand how you messed up, showing real and actual remorse, showing how that you are going to redress the situation, try to make it up to those that you've offended, and promising that this will never happen again. Like an apology is a standard thing in human existence, and there are good apologies and bad apologies, and it's very well understood at this point what a good apology is or what an appropriate apology is. And so I assume they
Mm-hmm.
deleted their first apology while they were, typing out their second apology. And so
Yeah.
when the next post on their site was a model tank, uh,
It's a little awkward. Yeah.
yeah, and I thought that they were, just going into sweep it under the rug mode.
Yeah.
Um,
More than likely, it was a scheduled post by whoever runs their social media.
yeah.
Yeah.
But it did take them a good 24 or 36 hours after they deleted their first apology to get their second apology up.
Yeah, that's true. It took a
But
minute.
yeah,
And I mean, it was more well formed, and they also did it in Spanish. So they, because this company is in Spain, so English is not their first language, and I don't know, this, it feels so familiar. Like the whole green stuff world thing is like it's like the same situation. You know what I mean?
okay, let's back up there. Green Stuff World did a copyright strike against a YouTuber who did not deserve it around like December 31st of last year.
Yeah.
They did not put images of the Holocaust in a commercial.
No, I'm not. I'm not
They screwed
suggesting,
up in
but
a
it's
different
it's
way.
a
But yes,
similar type of
the
like
dance of
apology,
a corporation
reapology.
realizing that
Yes.
they made a big mistake, trying to figure out what to do about their big mistake. Do we bury it, or do we face it head on and apologize? Like that's
Right. Because they went both directions, and
yeah,
AK has kind of done the same thing. It's like, well, we're gonna take this route. Okay,
yeah,
now we're gonna take this route, and it feels very similar to that.
yeah. It's a classic dance. There's only a couple of moves that a corporation can do. In this case, it was a little interesting to see them try all of the moves
Yeah.
First move, double down. Second move, apologize. Delete apology. Sweep under the rug by posting tanks and deleting all the comments of all of their other posts,
Mm.
and then finally going with their second apology was short, but it did include most of the basic elements.
Yeah.
There's, the book itself is still for sale. It, I would say that the font is still pretty problematic. We've only seen a couple
Well,
of
at this
sample
point,
pages from the
they're not
book,
going to
but
be able to. They can't go back. I mean, AKA Interactive is not a huge company.
yeah,
They were banking on this, which really bothers me on a whole other level, because when it comes to the community that we're in, like, obviously, we don't really do scale modeling. We don't do historical modeling. We don't even play bolt action.
well,
Right?
not yet. I mean, never say never.
No,
We're getting
right.
there.
But my point
Learn
is
all
that
these skills.
the slice of pie that the kind of person is that is going to make something like a historical recreation of a Nazi death camp and be completely serious about it, take it very seriously while they're building it, understand what it is, and present it in a way that is respectful, that slice of pie is so small that I do not understand why a company like AK Interactive would invest the money into making a product that is probably meant for 0.1% of their actual audience. It just seems like a bad call overall.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that argument. I don't know. I actually don't know, how often. I think they've put out other art books before. I assume this is the most controversial one. They have a wide product range, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know, how many eggs they were putting into this particular basket.
Probably
but,
not that many.
In terms of risk reward, doing something this controversial, it's a high risk for probably not a lot of reward, but
yeah, and I mean, I don't even think they thought it was. Like, they just didn't see what was right in front of them. Yeah, for sure. And I don't think they're gonna do this again.
I think they've learned some lessons from this. I would hope they have.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
And that's kind of one of the reasons why I didn't want it to be entirely swept under the rug, is because I do want them to really have to wrestle with the consequences of this, to really understand why this was wrong. But then in AK Interactive dealing with this and making amends and learning, I would like other companies to notice this and maybe get some lessons out of that as well. And again, like I said, for anyone working at any company, if you see someone doing something in really bad taste, borderline illegal, speak up. Like, if you see something not cool, not safe, not legal, speak up.
I haven't looked into that. I have to imagine that this is, like, there has to be some legality here. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's a situation like those videos were so wrong. I can't.
Well, where do you
I
even
can't
get
even
something
make a
that?
metaphor for how wrong it is. It's like going to an actual funeral and setting up your camera and filming a Geico commercial with a real funeral in the background and doing that 100 times. Like, I can't even come up with a metaphor for how distasteful this is. Like, it's yeah. Anyway, so that happened. Like I said, I was when they deleted their apology and started posting tanks again. I spent a couple hours that day writing a Goobertown Hobbies script. No, this isn't. I don't want to spend all my videos doing stuff like that. But on the other hand, I don't want this to be swept under the rug either. the title of the video is going to be like AK Interactive still owes us an apology because they deleted their attempt at apology, but
Right,
they
because
did
they still
eventually put a
hadn't.
second one up.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like 36 hours after they deleted the first one, so
It was a while
there was a
there.
serious question about whether that was coming or not. But
Yeah.
anyway, so that happened, and there are little drama flare-ups like this from companies in our space making mistakes, and that happens. I don't know, a couple times a year, but this
So,
one this one was particularly bad. Like in terms
yeah, for
of
sure.
mistakes, if the word genocide or Holocaust are involved in the mistake that your company made, like that's probably going on the list for
Yeah.
top blunders of 2020. But
It's interesting. I've been talking about this with my wife, even since that green stuff one, right?
yeah,
Um, Now what she does for a living is essentially coach businesses through all of the things that they need to do to run properly. Like she'll work with a company, um, and give them all these different tools and procedures and everything that they need to be successful, to make money, to run a company with good culture, all of these things, right? And she kind of does it through this branding and marketing lens. And she's done that for the last 12 years. So the way that she was explaining it to me as we were having a conversation about this was, our space is a niche on its own. There are a lot of companies that we deal with that we find to be, exceptionally large, that we think are exceptionally large. You look at Vallejo Paints, right? You look at AK Interactive, um, all these different ranges. Pro Acryl, big thing right now. Monument Hobbies. Like, how many people work at each one of these companies? 15, 20 people? Or in Monument's case, like 5, I think. We're not talking about massive corporations. Like, GW is the biggest company in this space, and they're still not making that much money compared to a lot of other businesses around the world. So what it really comes down to is that we're seeing this drama and these mistakes and these issues come up because people don't actually know better most of the time. They don't have the right kind of people telling them, hey, like, you need to try and do these things and follow these procedures so that you can reach customers, you can reach people and get your message actually heard. Most of them don't even know how to talk about their own business. It's whatever they paid someone to do to make for their website, or whatever they did on their own, because again, it's a small company and they could have done most everything in-house. So it's just kind of interesting to see that we look at some of this stuff and it seems so big, and I'm not discounting what AK did or anything as being like a small thing,
yeah,
but on the level of like blunders, right? Corporate blunders. We're talking about essentially small businesses. Maybe a mid-size company with up to 50 employees. We're not talking
yeah.
a lot of people and a lot of business and a lot of money. We are still a very niche hobby. And so these things tend to become magnified, when we look at them. Um, yeah, I just thought that was interesting from her perspective.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Like when a company, big or small, makes a mistake, a lot of times it is a single person though. So I'm thinking of
That's kind of what I mean.
yeah. So I'm
It's
thinking
like one person made a decision,
yeah,
and the entire company, whether it's huge or small, whatever it is having to now deal with this thing, and they don't even know how.
yeah. Was it? I can't remember if it was Delta or American Airlines or what, but maybe a year or
All of
two
the above.
ago, an airline customer, they overbooked and they had to drag a customer off the plane
That was
because
Delta, yeah.
yeah, they overbooked and they had to drag a customer off the plane because they had sold too many tickets for that flight and they were unable to bribe someone to get off the plane. And so
Yeah.
they dragged a customer off the plane, but during physically removing a paying customer from their flight, like he got a bloody lip or something, and so again, there's a big company where a couple of employees gave the CEO a really bad couple of days.
Oh, absolutely.
And yeah, with the AK Interactive thing, again, you can kind of see the size of the company based on the fact that I think that barbed wire in the book and the barbed wire in the video promotion kind of
Hmm.
tells you, how small the team is working on that.
Right. That's a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and again, especially with a small team though, even if it was a bigger project for the company, still just
Hmm.
a couple of people, a small echo chamber saying like, no, this is a good idea. Yeah, this is a
Yeah.
good idea. Yeah, no, this is gonna be okay.
Yeah. And they said that over and over as they worked on it
Yeah,
until they released it, and literally did not see any of this coming and didn't know how to handle it at
yeah,
all.
yeah. Um, yeah, so my emotions on it are mixed. I believe that there's always a road to forgiveness. I believe that people make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. I can sort of see how this mistake got made by, a couple of people like trying to do something good, having a
Yeah.
bad plan, but talking themselves into it. Um,
Somebody had to. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, but anyway, my my thoughts on this are I hope most of the hobby community does hear about this incident, but I do
Hmm.
hope that AK Interactive are able to make amends and move past it. But um,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
and I mean, I know a lot of people are just like, I'm just gonna, throw away all my AK stuff. Like, I don't think that's
yeah,
necessary.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would necessarily include them in a video or whatever because they've shown that they are capable of making some very bad decisions and possibly being bringing bad publicity down on things. Like
Sure.
if I were making a sitcom, I don't know if I'd hire Roseanne Barr and Charlie Sheen at this point, because they're a
Right.
liability. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I mean, it's tough though, because like, human error is something that we all have to deal with, and in this case it was real bad.
hmm,
Really bad. But I don't think that any of them are not like in love with the hobby that we do. I think they just fucked up so bad.
yeah, yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep, yep. Uh, so I don't think I don't think I own any AK Interactive products anyway. So I mean, I'm not one to
I
be like I'm
do.
boycotting them, but
Right.
uh, I think.
I have quite a bit of their
Do
stuff.
you? Okay,
Yeah. Like, I use it all the time.
cool. Yeah,
So it's like, now what?
yeah. I think I have a
you know.
few ammo MIG stuff, which is used to
I'm
be
pretty sure they
related,
do
or
MIG, right?
I don't know.
I want to say they do. Or it's just the branding is so similar I can't tell the difference.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think you need to throw all that stuff out, Casey. Like that's fine.
No, and I'm not planning on it. Like, I'm definitely, I lean toward the side of forgiveness more often than not. And while I do think that this was a stupid ass thing to do, and they should have to sit in the corner and think about it,
There you go. Yep.
like,
Yep.
that doesn't mean they can't come back out and play. But you need to sit in that corner.
Yeah, and
Think about
plus,
what you did.
maybe that streaking grime.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'm not gonna throw out your streaking grime.
No,
You
I'm
crazy? Yeah.
not. Like, if anything, I'll relabel it. I'll call it something else.
Buy out that streaking grime before they go out of business and change their name. Like, yeah.
Right?
Um,
Oh man.
okay. I think we're good on the Holocaust
Yeah.
commercial there. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry to bring it down, everybody. I think it's just,
It's
I
not
think
our
we both
fault.
felt it was important to at least mention, because these things tend to happen and it takes a lot of people off guard, you know. And it felt like we should definitely just have a discussion on it and kind of just talk it over. If you hadn't heard about it or seen it, I know a lot of people didn't see the videos. I didn't even know what was going on. And that was a lot of the Facebook stuff that I saw after at least the first 4 or 5 hours that they had that other apology up. Was people were just like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And they did take the videos off pretty quickly. And I mean, at this point, there's a lot of people who were like, I didn't see the videos, but they couldn't have been that bad. Just
Right.
rest assured that the videos were absolutely worse than you are imagining right now.
Yeah.
The videos really were that bad. And yet there's always a road to forgiveness. So,
yeah.
So, Casey, you been working on any conversions or?
It's funny. I've been thinking about how are we going to transition out of this?
Put some streaking grime on those orc buggies.
I mean, I was planning on it.
When you do it in the video, just like put your thumb over the logo of your generic oil wash.
I'll if anything, I'll do something funny and like make the bottle something else. Like I've got gaff tape all over the place back here. I can do something and then whatever. But I mean, I use streaking grime all the time because it covers everything and it's removable, and oil enamel is like, it's just a thing. But I have been thinking, like, how are we supposed to transition out of this section and become more lighthearted and talk about fun conversions?
Yeah, so a couple of days ago, Casey and I had a little chat and like, what should episode 14 be about? We can talk about conversions for a while, and
that was
we were thinking about all the aspects of conversions to talk about, and then AK Interactive went and gave us something else to talk about, but we're here now. Conversions.
Yeah. I wonder if we can put a timestamp in on this section just to. Anyways, conversions. Yes, that's a thing that we can do in this hobby. If you have never done a conversion before, it's pretty much where you cut up models or you use bits from other kits, you smash them all together, put glue on it and paint, and it becomes a new model. It's something I've been discovering a lot more lately, really getting into it. Like I started doing some of those, like I did Blight Kings from Age of Sigmar, turned those into Death Guard Marines, Putrid, whatever they're called. I don't know, I don't play 40k. But yeah, like that, it was really kind of eye-opening and fun, and like I'd never really done anything like that before. Back in the day, I did, little what you maybe can consider a conversion of like a head swap or, adding a weapon to something. I'm going to send a picture to Matt so he can put it up on the video feed. But the first major conversion I ever did was in 1999. I did a Matrix conversion with an Eldar Guardian. And I think you've actually seen this before, Brent, but I'm going to throw this up on the screen. Thank you, Matt. So I turned him upside down, cut his fingers apart that was gripping a gun. I cut the fingers apart, kind of splayed his hand out, and had him flipping upside down, with his legs flipped up in the air, and he's like shooting a gun, right? So very reminiscent of Neo in the Matrix, and I thought I was so awesome back in the day. It looks like crap. But I did try. And that was the first time I ever committed to cutting a model up. And I mean, I was not very old. Because that was definitely 21 years ago at this point. And yeah, I cut that model up. And I did
the
not
Matrix
have
2
money.
come out yet? Or we're talking about the Matrix?
No, this is 1999.
Yeah,
like the Matrix had just come out. Yeah. So it kind of dates me a little bit there.
Well, I bet if you did it again today, you could make that sweet jumping Neo Guardian with a bullet time. You think about it. You think about it. But no, you actually have been doing some pretty cool stuff. So the Putrid Blight Collars, is that what they were?
The Blight Kings, yes.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Mm.
And you did a Great Unclean one?
Yeah, which When is this podcast coming out? I think it came out yesterday. That particular video that you're talking about came out yesterday. If you're listening to this podcast when it comes out.
Look, don't worry about this, Casey. They're gonna check out your Great Unclean One whenever it comes out.
That's a good point.
No, for real though, that's one of the best projects I've seen you do. It's one of the best videos you've made because you used your whole studio and you had lots of sweet shots of you opening up your toolbox and stuff. And for those listening at home, it's way cooler than maybe it sounds. But like Casey's opening up his toolbox, he's getting out his tools, he's doing some 3D prints, he's got some sweet tunes on in the background, and then yeah, so this conversion that we're talking about, you had leftover bits from a Great Unclean One kit, right?
Yeah, so the kit comes with like 2 separate heads for your Great Unclean One and 2 separate weapon options for each hand. Oh, that looks painful. Okay. Anyways, so and I should correct myself. Anyways, the kit comes with 3 separate full options. So there's 2 separate ones for the Great Unclean One. 2 heads, 2 arms, or 4 arms, whatever. I'm getting math wrong today. Whatever. And then you get a Rotigus, which is like the Great Unclean One sorcerer, right? He's got all the magic and stuff.
Okay.
So you have the ability to make these 2 options, and I made the standard Great Unclean One, big sword, flails, all this stuff. And actually, one of the first videos on my channel was how to make a Great Unclean One for like $40 by going on eBay and just buying the body that comes in the kit, because you could do that when those kits came out. People part out the kits and stuff. You could do that. So I built another one for like $40. Just bought the body and took the extra parts in the kit and you put them on and they fit. So you have a whole other Great Unclean One for half the price, whatever. In this case, I couldn't find a body, but I still had the extra heads and arms.
This is one of my favorite types of conversions. Use the extra bits in a GW box to try to make a whole new model.
Right.
Yeah, and so Great Unclean One is like a giant, fat, disgusting toad man thing.
Yeah. The greater demon. He's basically a giant blob with horns.
Yeah.
That is bursting. Literally, his skin is bursting and like maggots and crap are coming out of him, and it's fantastic. It's a really cool model.
Right. And so, it's pretty common with Games Workshop kits, at least, where you'll have some extra head options, you'll have some extra weapon options, maybe a few, fun, bits of flair in there. But then maybe there's some sort of limiting reagent. And a lot of times it's legs and torsos. Not always, but a lot of times. And so, we all have a bits box, and a lot of our bits box are extra heads and extra weapon options and like purity seals or skulls or whatever the extra stuff is on the sprue that we don't use. And so I really love this type of conversion of, I'm not getting 1 Great Unclean One out of this box, I'm getting 2. And
in this case, 3.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize that this bits were all from your first box. I actually didn't make that connection. That's awesome.
I may have been able to be more clear about that.
Yeah. We're good. We got there. So, yeah, from the video, I saw you just printed a new body and then used the head and the arms and then a little bit of green stuff. And once you got it painted up, like, it looked good.
Yeah, I was actually, so I did a community post like a week ago saying, hey, I've got this awesome project. Regardless of how it turns out, I'm still making a video, but I don't have high hopes for this, And people are like, no, you got this. And it's like, I didn't tell them what it was. I didn't even know if the print was going to come out. And it was still a little funky. Like, it slipped off the plate about halfway through. So it was a little funky. But like, none of the major details were messed up, and it turned out pretty good. I was pretty happy with it.
Was this a print that was specifically made for the purpose of using the extra bits in that kit, or was it?
No, no. So
No.
I went into like a mesh mixer and I cut the head off of the actual model.
Oh,
Um, yeah. So the model is I can't remember what it's called. It's like Nefa something or other. From what is it? Duncan Luca.
okay.
Yeah. And actually, Trent from Miscast used one to make a great and clean one for his Nurgle army, but he used this like funky pox demon that's like super tall and did some cool stuff to it. More like a Gargant than a great and clean one, but still super rad. But the dude does really good sculpts. I think he's got a Patreon, and he's got a website, and he just does sculpting, and you can buy STL files. Um, yeah, so I used one of his kits to do that. But I did have to make those modifications, and then the print kind of came out funky because it just like took basically a planer and sliced the head off and was like, now there's a giant hole in the body. Hopefully it prints properly. And there were some weird like holes and lines in the model, but no resin was leaking out or anything. So I nailed that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I saw like supports running up the middle of the hollow body.
Yeah.
It looked funky, but you smoothed in some green stuff and connected all the bits, and um something I want to mention with this whole conversion talk is don't underestimate what a coat of primer can do.
Oh, for
So
real.
before you painted that up, it was a chunk of resin, which again, this is just a big fat blob. So the part of that model you used was just a big fat blob. It was like a belly, and
Pretty
I don't know if there were
much.
stumpy little legs
There's
under there or
stumpy
what,
little
but
feet with
yeah.
like 3 toes on it or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And yeah, a couple of actual big GW bits and then some green stuff. And before that thing is painted, as with a lot of conversions, it looks stupid because you've got
Oh, it looks
at least
absolutely
three or
ridiculous.
more different materials on there.
Yeah.
It's hard to see if they're actually blended well together or not.
Mm-hmm.
And as is often the case, it looks stupid. It looks bad.
Yeah.
But you put a coat of paint on there, and all of a sudden, I mean, maybe, some of the transitions or the blends or whatever of the materials, you can tell the problems, but a lot of them are going to
Mm-hmm.
look way better than you think they will.
Yeah, and that's usually the stage in which you can, you do a second pass or something. You go back and you figure out, okay, well, I missed this or this didn't quite work out. I've seen a lot of guys too. They take a picture of the model in black and white, just on your phone,
Hmm.
and all of a sudden, like, oh, look at that. You can't tell that they're different materials. Everything's the same color.
Yep.
So that's an awesome way to tell before you actually lay down paint. I
Hmm.
didn't do that, of course. I just primed it and
Oh, I
hoped for the
know, I
best.
know.
Yeah. That's
In
how I
theory,
go.
though, yay. Sounds like a good idea. You could do that for sure.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, getting that primer down, you see the mistakes, you can go back but it does unify it, right?
Yeah. So I'll bring this up. The last time we did a collaboration between eBay Miniature Rescues and Goobertown Hobbies was making a speeder out of a deodorant bottle.
Mm. Yes.
And this is another example of you can throw all kinds of different materials on there. And then once you do a coat of paint, all of a sudden it goes from just garbage to, okay, maybe this has some potential. So on that project, I did orcs. And so I had a deodorant stick, and onto that I glued some GW bits, some 3D printed bits, some like just pieces of plastic from packaging is like weird slapped on armor panels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There was some guitar wire. There was some, what's the cross-stitching plastic grate? I don't know what it's called. But anyway,
I
grandma
know what you're
grate,
talking about.
granny grate.
Yeah.
And there was some wire mesh stuff. Anyway, a lot of different materials on there.
So many materials went in on that project for you.
Yeah, all held together with a lot of super glue.
Right.
And yeah, and then spray paint that up, and all of a sudden, when it's all the same color, wow, that actually kind of looks like a model.
Yeah.
And I don't know, assemble bravely, or what's our catchphrase?
Yeah. Like, don't let the glue dry on your fingers. I don't know.
Yeah, don't
use
do that.
activator. But... Definitely use activator.
But yeah, it kind of just opens up all this creativity to realize that you can use so many different materials other than just GW plastic or or white metal models.
Yeah.
You can use all kinds of stuff, and as long as it's not going to like rot on you over time, or even
pretty much, yeah.
Even cardboard in the right situations could be a pretty good material for this stuff. But
yeah. And I mean, bringing up super glue again, you coat things in super glue. It's basically like coating it in resin. Like, it will harden and be that way forever. So like cardboard, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
It will just harden, absorb all of the glue.
Sure.
So yeah, go for it.
Yep.
And that orc, what was it technically? Was it just like a speeder?
Yeah, it's supposed to be a speeder, but it turned into like a rocket pontoon boat with a big orc and a bunch of grots and Gretchen on it. Yeah, that's one of my favorite projects over the last year. So that was a good one.
I was gonna say that it turned out so good.
Well, thank you.
Like, you just destroyed everyone else in that whole thing too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if the listeners know, but sometimes I'm really slow at making videos, and that was a situation where we did a collaboration, and my video of the collaboration was like 2 weeks late, but
okay.
pretty sweet orc
I think
speeder.
It's time that I need to clarify something as well, because there's been this misconception that that I screwed up making that video, and with good reason. The video starts with me saying I screwed up, and Brent on my video saying, we are all done. This was supposed to go out already, buddy. Like, what are you doing?
Nobody remembers this, Casey. Yeah, yes, it was my fault. I know.
No, it's just, I think it's one of those things where the videos go out, people think it's funny, and then your video goes out, and now it becomes this like non-issue, and it just forever from that time when your video goes out till the end of time, I look like the jackass.
Right. Now that all of the videos are out, now that it's like a year later, you don't look at the timestamps of when those videos got posted. Yeah. There's a video of Casey like apologizing for taking too long to post the video, and that video was posted like a month before I posted mine.
I just felt the need to say that.
But if you don't check those timestamps, it looks like, Brent put out a pretty sweet orc raider right on time, and apparently Casey was late in putting his together. Yeah. That's all right, though.
I thought I was late, and because we were talking about it, right? And I busted that thing out like on the weekend. Like, I spent extra time to just do this thing. I was like, I don't know how I screwed this up so bad. It's like out of my way to make this pretty fun video. Like, I like the way it turned out. I'm not sad about it at all, but
I know.
I just thought it was funny.
I know.
And yours did kill. It was awesome. Like, I don't know why I didn't pick orcs. That's so dumb.
Always pick orcs.
Right?
But yeah, that was a conversion, if you want. That was almost more of like a scratch build. We used some GW parts in there, but it was, a big part of that build was a deodorant can, and then for me, 3D printed parts and just other stuff that not official bits. So I don't know if that's conversion or scratch build, or if we need to differentiate there, but
that's kind of why I really wanted to talk about converting is it's like, what types of conversions are there? Because you do have those ground up orc builds or scratch builds or whatever you want to call it, um, down to weapons and head swaps, right? Like I was mentioning earlier, is that, does that actually count? Yeah, because even this great unclean one that I did is almost a scratch build sort of situation because the body is a majority of this model. You know, the head and the arms, they're just bits.
Yeah, I was thinking about it as I was watching that project. Like when is it a conversion? When is it still, a GW model? When is it a scratch build?
Yeah.
And I was gonna say that before watching your video, I was gonna say that a good rule is the largest piece should be from, whatever the official model is or from
Right.
that company. Like you get an orc truck, I saw that video where you bought some used orcs and there was that one nasty old Gorka Morka truck where
Yeah.
there wasn't a whole lot left to it, but the main frame, the chassis of the truck,
Mm-hmm.
was a Gorka Morka GW truck, and you
Yeah,
put
three
all
wheels and
kinds
a
of cool
chassis.
stuff on there. But in that case, I'd say yeah, that's a conversion, or that's a legit model. Like the biggest piece is 1992 pure
Yeah.
heavy metal GW, whatever. Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it. Yeah. Uh yeah, and I'm still kind of on the fence with that one just because I really like the way that turned out, but I would prefer to have an actual GW orc sitting in the driver's seat rather than a 3D printed one. And like the 3D printed one looks pretty good. So I'm kind of up in the air on that one. I'm not sure how to feel yet. I mean, I haven't gotten paint on that either, so I'm not sure how it'll compare. You know, might just be one of those things where it just stands out a mile away. But the chassis yeah, that's it. That is 100% GW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for the driver, if you just did like a head swap, maybe that would
Oh, good
work.
point.
But anyway,
Just
for
throw a
for your
wheel
big
orc
unclean
head.
one,
Yeah.
I was gonna say like, oh, you 3D printed the body, like that's a scratch build, that's a 3D printed model, but the body in that case is just
Yeah.
a fat, disgusting blob. Like the body in that case
Yeah.
adds so little of the. Well, I mean, it is the character of the model, but there's not a lot of definition there. It's all
Right.
flabs. Um, so in that case, it's a recognizable head sculpt from GW and recognizable arms, and so that might be the exception to the rule there.
Yeah, maybe if it is ultra recognizable, right? Like you're saying. Because if you looked at this and I put it on, because I mean, I would play this with my other great unclean ones, right? Like you can run the trice fold befoulment or whatever, where there's three great unclean ones and a crap load of demons.
The
It's
formation.
like, yeah, exactly. Oh, look at us. um, but like that's been a goal of mine for a while. Like I've wanted to have that, and I just haven't been able to get the third great and clean one. But I mean, sitting next to the other two, which I did picture right at the end of the video, like it's different, but it's definitely that model.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that I don't know, maybe a majority of people might double take. You know, kind of look at it and be like, oh, it's erotic. It's gonna be like, wait, what? Like, because it's not, but it is.
Yeah. I love that category of conversion of making the most out of a kit, getting
Yeah.
getting an extra model or two out of a set. I think that's awesome. One of the examples I wanted to bring up was the Lizard Man or Seraphon Start Collecting box.
Lizard
So
Man's fine. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if you Lizard Man's fine. Lizard Man, Seraphon, all good. Yeah, I don't know if you've seen this post, but there's a fairly famous post on Lustria Online, the web forum for Lizardmans, that is, how to make the most out of your Seraphon Start Collecting box. And if you Google that, you'll find it. But it's
Mm.
it's somebody who kind of looked at all the bits in the box and thought about how to use them to get the most, characters and points and monsters out of it. So yeah, it's a box that
Yeah.
has the Carnosaur kit, which can also be a Troglodon or something. And so,
Right.
kind
So
of like
there's
the
some
Great
spare.
Unplanned one.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of extra bits there to change it, and so it could have a uh, Sora Scar veteran riding it, or could have a skink chieftain. And so any of those kits where there are like two different riders to a big cavalry unit, like
Yeah.
there's oftentimes where you can use that other variant of the rider or whatever to make something. But it's just an example where there's a lot of ways to cut that up to make normal troops into characters.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, the coolest thing in that article is they took all the extra bits from that big monster, from the alternate sculpt of that big monster, and they put it onto like an aqueous resin water base, so that the big fin was sticking out of the water, and the head was sticking out of the water, and the tail was sticking out of the water. They did just a
Oh,
little bit of
okay.
green stuff work, and all of a sudden, the GW wasn't going to give you the extra belly and legs and tiny little forelimbs,
Right. Yeah.
but you got the head, you got the tail spine, and that's poking out of the water. You got the extra skink riding it, and so it looks
Yeah.
like this.
And so he's on top of the thing,
Yeah,
and
it
it
looks like
looks
this big
legit.
dinosaur is coming out of the water.
Ooh,
Um,
that's good stuff.
yeah, but with almost any kit, there's ways to make like a normal troop into a character, a hero, a veteran, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, look that up if you want to see some really inspiring stuff. How to make the most out of your Seraphon start collecting box.
That's a really interesting take on looking at that too. Kind of how to game your box, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you represent them? Like, how many points do you actually get in a box? That's very interesting. Um,
You're gonna start
yeah, I
making
could
that video
see.
now, aren't you?
I totally want to.
Yeah, we're just gonna can
Like,
this whole podcast so you have time to make that YouTube video before
just buy one of every start collecting box and see literally how much I could make out of everything. Just be like, look, I got 40 more poxwalkers out of this box. Okay, plague bears, poxwalker, whatever. Like, there's 2,000 points in this start collecting box.
yeah, yeah.
It'd just be a hand poking out of some sand with a sword. Counts.
Right, that giant box comes with Johann running around. If we just find a way to put like a couple axes in Johann's hands, like it's a free warlord right there. It's a barbarian.
Yeah, good point, right?
Yeah,
It's the new Slambo.
exactly. Johann Slambo. Get him a couple of double-edged war axes and
Yeah.
send him running off into the enemy as fast as he can.
From some like dwarf kits or something. Like, I know I got some.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Interesting.
See another example again of like kind of lazy conversions to game the system, which is always funny to me. I mean, you're buying this expensive box of plastic, but then you're like, haha, I got one over on you by getting an extra Saurus Scar veteran out of the box,
It's so interesting to think about that. Like, we're totally cool with cutting up, like, I mean, I wouldn't pull out a $5 bill and set it on fire right now, but like, I'll cut a bunch of bits up out of a box that I'm not going to use for anything else on those models. Like, yeah, that was probably $20 in plastic you just cut up.
It's all right. It's all right. You
Right,
get an
it's
extra
fine.
Saurus Scar veteran out of that box, it was worth it,
Yeah.
But
Now I just want to buy that box to see if I can do that. I just picked up some like water effects stuff and like I've been meaning to use it, so yeah, I want to try that.
blast. I know I have one. I was hoping it was one of the boxes right behind me here.
I remember in your what was it, your flexing video? Yeah, you showed it off. Yeah.
It's all right somewhere. I got my Saurus.
I know you got one.
Yeah. So other examples of that: Dark Eldar, their vehicles, the Venom, and the Raider. They're both transport vehicles, and the models come with, the vehicle and then a couple of troops hanging off of them.
Yeah.
And that's another one of my favorite examples of if you're okay with having a couple of witches that have their, legs bent at weird angles so that they can be hanging
Right.
off of a vehicle skimming along hundreds of miles an hour. And, maybe you don't want your Venom with troops hanging off of it, but maybe you want some witches jumping through the air. You just got a couple of free witches right there. You just gotta
Exactly.
figure out a way to put those on a base. Maybe build up a little rock formation so it just looks like they're jumping off a rock or something.
Yeah, I was
There you
gonna
go.
say that's the best way to do it. Is you just make the base match the pose, right? So if they're supposed to be hanging off something, it's like, oh, yeah, they got their leg up on a rock and their arm
Mm-hmm.
up on this, other rock way up here or whatever, and it's like, yeah, super awesome model, right?
Yeah.
Which brings up another point. Are you the kind of person that saves all your bits in a box? And I don't mean saves your bits and stuff that you have, because obviously you generally have some left over, but like Eldar is a good example. Dark Eldar, there's always like little grenades or pouches or extra little spiky whatevers, especially those Dark Eldar spiky things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never even owned Dark Eldar, and for some reason I've got probably 50 Dark Eldar spiky things and heads and arms in a box somewhere. Like they're just everywhere. But do you like to put all those little things on every model, like having those riders hanging off of those Venoms or Raiders, or do you just set those aside automatically, knowing you're not going to use those?
It depends on the bits. Like
Yeah.
purity seals, I do not put extra purity seals on my models. Grenades, no. Um, Spikes, it depends where. I might sometimes I'll put a couple extra spikes on a Dark Eldar, but for the most part, I'm a person that has most of those extra bits left over at the end.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same camp. Like I don't like extra weird non-sculpted in items. Like if it's not baked in, I don't necessarily want it. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times an extra pouch or an extra grenade or skull that's supposed to be, hanging around the belt somehow. A lot of
Yeah.
times just the scaling isn't quite right, or they don't quite fit in
Right.
there, and it really looks like they're muckled on and something extra and not
Yeah.
part of the intent of the model. So
That's
yeah,
yeah, it definitely feels that way, huh? It doesn't actually belong there.
I mean, it depends. Like, if you are a skilled modeler and conversion person, you can make it work. But a lot of times,
Yeah.
just the scale isn't quite right. The how big would a grenade actually be to go on the belt, and how big is the actual bit, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking Space Marines here is what I have in my mind. But
Sure.
the pistol pouch that goes on the belt, like a lot of times it doesn't fit right, and it looks like it would be really in the way and really big.
Yeah.
Or the pistol pouch that comes for Dark Eldar warriors. The old ones was way big. The only
It's
place you
just
could
this
put it on the model and have
lump
it
with a
like
handle
kind of work
poking
was
out.
on the back. They just it'd take up like the whole back of the model if you just put the pistol pouch on it.
Right.
So it depends on the model. It depends on the scaling, but I am generally a person who doesn't use all those extra bits, and so when the time comes to possibly put them to good use, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's nice having that stuff laying around,
Mm-hmm.
because if you are, I don't know, building an orc deodorant skimmer, like those extra heads and grenades and stuff to throw on, like, yeah, that comes in handy, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I like saving bits, and you just never know what you're gonna need them for.
And stuff like that really does condense down small. Put it in a little plastic bag, clip it off the sprue, put it in a little plastic bag if you want to keep it separated and sorted, and throw it in a bin and call it good.
Yeah.
We'll be back to it someday, or not.
Yeah.
What other conversions? So something I have down on my list, and this is not something I've done before, is like kind of giving your army a little tweak to the standard theme. Like something I've wanted to do before is make capes for all of my Dark Eldar warriors.
Okay.
So instead of just standard, my guys have capes, and so I've done the thing where I roll out the green stuff, and I've got my sculpting tools, and somewhere in my bits are some really shoddy looking green stuff capes.
Right.
And
I've been there.
yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. I got some stupid bendy looking cape in a box somewhere, like a handful of them.
All right,
That never actually made
put
it to
that
the
on your
model.
3D printing list, Casey. We need capes.
I will. I
Oh
will
yeah,
definitely put that
write
on
that
the
right
list.
down. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
right
a
now
little
we're
bit
up
tricky
to
based on where the shoulders are and what the back
a
looks like,
little
but
bit, yeah.
find a way, make it work.
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Hmm.
One of the good ones actually, just because we're on that, is um, flags with no sculpted markings.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a thing that's being done right now. Yeah,
Yeah,
all in
that's
good time. I wanna talk about this in a little bit greater detail because somebody that we both know, or at least I think, pretty sure you do. I know you've talked to him, but I don't know, somebody we mutually have seen, like is
mm-hmm.
working on some bits for me. So yeah, we'll get
Well,
there.
you spill those beans whenever you're ready to, Casey.
Yes,
I know you will.
not today.
Okay. So what else? So kind of I'm thinking of, conversions where you can do a couple of things across your whole force. So adding
Mm-hmm.
capes or adding like furs, that's reasonably easy to do with green stuff, I think.
I think fur is like kind of one of those things that you do first, right? Because it's like that texture that
Yeah.
you can just kind of like scratch at. And I mean, I have no idea. I'm no good at it, but um, that's something I generally see. Like I think they have a tutorial on fur on even Games Workshop's YouTube channel with green stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sure.
I think they're assuming that people like putting fur on things.
Yeah.
Of course, they could be trolling PETA.
Oh, you sent me that link. I never read it.
You never actually read it?
Yeah,
All right.
you can get into this one. I'm not up on this particular controversy from
Yeah.
2017, so
Since we're rolling long, I'm not going to go into PETA, but maybe we should just
yeah, write that
save
down
it.
for later. We'll
Yeah.
get back to that
In
if we
another
haven't
three
done
or four
some.
episodes when we gonna come back around,
Yeah, if next
we'll lay
episode
into PETA
nobody
for a
has
little
done a
bit.
really heinous advertisement, wait, maybe we'll get into the PETA Games Workshop incident of
Right.
2017. Yeah.
Eventually we'll get there. I just think it's hilarious. Like it's just a funny story. But yeah, fur is definitely a thing. Like that does change your whole army, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's see. Weapon swaps are pretty easy. That's one I've done for my Delac gang in Necromunda. And I do like that kind of conversion where there's like a really clear motivation for what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the box of Delac gangers does not have a melta-gun. I want my champion to be using a melta-gun. I go through my bits box. Well, I've got this Space Marine arm, which I can cannibalize, or this Imperial Guard bit. And
Yeah.
with conversions, sometimes you watch like Mezgeik,
Mm-hmm.
Mike on YouTube there. He does some crazy awesome stuff with conversions, and some of it seems kind of not necessary, like you could just buy that model, or like there's maybe an easier way to do it, but I mean he's doing some really unique poses on models that you could just buy and put together standard. But I kind of like having a clear motivation for needing to do the conversion. Like the only
Right.
way to get this weapon on this model, certainly if I'm not going to buy Forge World bits, is to convert this Imperial Guard flamer and scrape off the weird shoulder pad from the Cadian and find a way
Yeah.
to muckle that onto the Delac arm, and there's Hot Carl with his flamer,
Right.
best ganger out there.
How you played Necromunda a lot, right?
Not a lot. I don't play much of anything a lot. I don't play a
Okay,
ton,
well,
but
but
I have a
you've
dream of
played.
playing games someday, so I like to assemble armies and gangs and forces. Yeah.
I feel you. I'm in the same boat. I have war bands all over the place.
Yeah.
I have armies, Brent. Armies. Never played.
Wonderful.
I mean, I have, but I don't play very often. Yeah. So We're in the same boat.
Yeah. Let's see. Other conversions. Like you, when I've gotten eBay stuff that's all broken up, like I got a lot of Dark Eldar Raiders 3rd edition, where the
Right.
previous owner had cut off the whole superstructure. Like he cut off where the pilot sits there in the back, and he cut off like the wings in the back. And he was doing something, or he was trying, like he had put like a piece of steel on the back because he was trying to get 10, I think he was because he was trying to get 10 warriors with magnets to actually fit on a raider somehow. And it's something that's always bugged me too, is a raider can fit 6 warriors on its sideboards, like one of the old raiders that had sideboards. I've actually magnetized my sideboards on my raiders, and I could fit 6
Nice.
warriers on there. But it's one
But
of
what
those
is
things
it,
where,
like,
you know, a unit
you're
is
supposed
10
to fit 10?
warriors, and it
Yeah.
really bugs me.
That actually, that is very, yeah. They didn't think that out when they were sculpting it.
Yeah, oh well. I mean,
It's
at
one of
that
those
point, you
things,
could have a
though.
unit of 5 warriors, and I think you still can, but
You probably can now,
I
yeah.
mean, you could have a unit of 6 warriors, but it is not, you're not optimal. You're not going to be having a splinter cannon in
Right.
that unit, you know? Like, you're not going to,
Exactly.
that unit doesn't have a dark lance, right? Like,
Right.
but anyway, I had gotten I mean, it was a really cheap army deal of Dark Eldar, but there were like 10 raiders that all just had the tops cut off. And
Man.
and it looked really bad because there was no pilot. It was, you know, most of the body was still there. And I think actually in the box were all the superstructures, which were like mangled and cut off.
Yeah.
But then it was like a fun challenge of, okay, I have 10 raiders as long as I can find a way to make them not look terrible. And in that case, I had, you know, done some more eBaying and got the inner cockpit from a bunch of Venoms.
Mm.
And that's a thing where it's a vehicle where you can just paint the canopy and not even see the like pilot inside the Venom.
Yeah.
And so this person, I really cheap got, 1, all of the witches hanging off the outside of that guy's Venoms, but 2, the cockpit with the pilot and stuff in there. And so I found a way to kind of build up the superstructure on the back of those half raiders. I used a key from an old keyboard, like I was ripping out keys from a keyboard, and that gave just enough height to the cockpit from a Venom, and then like I was able to put a few spikes on that, and they're still like half finished, but I do have 3 Ravagers that were built up that way.
Nice.
But I enjoy the illusion of needing to do a conversion to, especially if it saves money. Like if I find a way to make this piece of trash into a raider, I don't have to buy a raider, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the appeal of conversions, like large scale conversions like that. Yeah, like a lot of people go for, I'm gonna take this, you know, toy and turn it into a thing, right? Which I don't know, like I still don't know if I'm comfortable with that, because now I feel like that's a stretch a little bit.
Well, do you want to talk about your box there?
Yeah. I don't know when I'm going to do this project. I don't know if I'm ever, I mean, I probably will. A subscriber sent me a box of Seraphon models. Most of them are normal from the Start Collecting box, but a couple of them were custom dinosaurs with a bunch of green stuff work on them.
Custom dinosaurs.
Toy dinosaurs with green stuff all over them, and like, yeah. And I honestly don't know how to feel about that. Like, it's a cool idea, and some of the green stuff work, there's a ton of bits thrown in, like actual Seraphon bits, so it's pretty legit. But like, I honestly, I don't know where to come down on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I bet if you prime those up, they'll look really good. Because you've shown me that it's a toy dinosaur. I mean, it's it's not the cheapest toy dinosaur. I mean, it might not be expensive,
No,
but
they're
it
all right.
looks all right. Looks all right. It's got some texture on it.
Oh yeah, actually a lot of good
Yeah,
texture
yeah.
for sure. These are upscale. They're not like dollar store dinos.
Yeah, so you got toy dinosaur, fair bit of green stuff, and like the green stuff looks good, and a lot of actual, GW bits on there. And again, if you prime that up, I bet it'll look good. I mean, I know you have tons of other things to paint. Yeah, the mouth works very cool, Casey.
It does.
um,
I'm showing it to
but
the
it's
people.
it's like just one of those weird mental blocks where we've been conditioned by this company to want, pure GW, and GW
Right.
makes the best stuff, and if it's not GW, it's not really a dinosaur. Like,
Exactly.
if
So
it's
how
not
far is
GW
it that
plastic,
I'm
then it's just a
brainwashed?
toy. Yeah.
And I've gone through conditioning,
Mm-hmm.
and how much of it is like, but it is a toy, like like the mouth moves. The mouth moves, Brent. I don't know how to feel.
That I don't know if it's 50% or whatever the biggest part of the model is, but like the feeling like, oh, this isn't genuine GW stuff. Like this is it's a knockoff, or it's custom and really cool. It depends on how you're looking at it. But,
Sure.
yeah.
Now, and I know that they have all the tournament regulations, Games Workshop, whatever. 80% of the model has to be original, something like that. I don't know the number anymore. It seems to change every day. But like I know that if I went to a Warhammer store, like they'd probably be okay-ish, but they'd probably also be like, hey, we want to see GW in the GW store. All right. Sure.
Okay, so you pull rank on them and let them know that you're going to talk bad about them on Paint Bravely the podcast
Yeah.
and see if they smarten up.
The Warhammer store down the street.
Yeah.
Bunch of dicks.
Sir, you're going to have to leave with that toy dinosaur. Do you know who I am?
Right. All right, it's time for some undercover camera work. I just need
you just messed up, boy.
Right.
GW
I got one of those like
writing an
chest
apology for you.
GoPro straps, like just hide that in the button. Just open the button of my shirt, just be poking out, and I'll say, "Can I play this dinosaur in this friendly game, sir?" No, you cannot.
I'd watch an undercover Casey gaming video. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All right, let me just write that down. The idea bank on my phone there.
All right. I'm going to try to make as many dinosaurs as I can out of that start collecting box. You go harass your local Games Workshop employee, and we'll make some YouTube videos. We'll check back next week.
Perfect. I love it. And on that note, thank you again for joining us on another episode of Paint Bravely. If you enjoyed this podcast, please help us out by leaving us a review on iTunes, subscribing to the YouTube channel, and sharing this message with your hobby friends. As always, we appreciate each and every one of you for listening, and we will talk to you next time.
Talk to you next time.
Yeah, actually, just like go watch the last Paint Bravely, like the last 5 seconds. And we both awkwardly turn to the camera at the same time and stare at it. It's kind of creepy, actually.